All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into a really unsettling short story by Rudyard Kipling, The Strange Ride of Morrowbie Jukes. It's part adventure, part horror, and honestly, a pretty sharp critique of society itself.
So, the whole story kind of forces us to ask ourselves this one pretty chilling question. What happens when all the structures we rely on, law, morality, your place in the world, what happens when they just vanish?
And our main guy, a man named Morrowbie Jukes, he's about to find out the answer to that question in the most terrifying way you can imagine. His journey kicks off with a fall, and I mean that literally, into a giant sandpit, but also figuratively, a fall from his spot at the very top of the social ladder.
Okay, Section 1, a reckless ride. First up, let's meet our protagonist in his natural habitat. Morrowbie Jukes is basically the embodiment of the confidence, the order, and that perceived superiority of the British Empire in India. You see, when we first meet Jukes, he's the picture of a rational, educated guy totally secure in his social rank. For him, the world has this clear, unshakable hierarchy, and he's sitting comfortably right near the top. His authority feels to him completely natural.
But then everything changes, in an instant. Gripped by a fever, he decides to go for this crazy nighttime ride, his horse trips, and bam, they both go plunging down a steep sandy slope. In a second, his entire controlled, orderly world is just shattered. He lands somewhere he didn't even know could exist.
Section 2, trapped in the underworld. And where he lands? Wow. It's the stuff of nightmares. He hasn't just fallen into some hole in the ground. He's fallen completely off the map of society itself.
The place is basically a settlement for people who were thought to have died from diseases like cholera, but then revived. Now they're trapped, considered legally and socially dead, stuck in this permanent state of exile. A graveyard for the living, indeed.
So, the pit. You gotta understand, it's not just a physical trap with its collapsing sand walls that you can't climb. It's a psychological prison. This is a society running on its own set of brutal rules, completely severed from the laws and morals of the world above.
And the people there? He finds himself surrounded by this community of the forgotten. Survival here, it's not about who you are. It's about what you can take. It's this brutal ecosystem built on scarcity, tough bargaining, and just raw intimidation.
Now for Section 3, the rules of the pit. And in this grim new world, Jukes very quickly meets the guy who basically is the rules, a man who will become his guide, his enemy, and his tormentor, all rolled into one, Gunga Das.
Now, Gunga Das is such a chilling character because he's not some random barbarian. He was once part of the colonial system himself, a telegraph officer. But the pit, well, the pit has totally transformed him. He's not a subordinate anymore. Here, he's a master of manipulation and psychological cruelty, an absolute expert in this new, brutal world. Section 4, when civilization collapses. And this right here is where the story really gets to the heart of it all. Everything Jukes thought he knew about power, it's about to get flipped completely upside down.
What this shows so clearly is that power is totally situational, right? It's not some natural, inherent thing. Above ground, Jukes' authority as a British man meant everything. But down here, all of that is totally worthless. Meanwhile, Gunga Das's cunning, which was kind of useless in his old life, is now the ultimate currency.
So Gunga Das takes this newfound power and just systematically dismantles the man who used to represent authority. The first tool he uses? Pure primal fear. Jukes' confidence, which was built on a world that doesn't exist anymore, just evaporates, replaced by this raw terror of his surroundings. Then comes hunger. Gunga Das has all the food. And just like that, this powerful British engineer is reduced to his most basic, desperate physical need. The man of high status is suddenly begging for scraps from someone he would have considered his inferior. It's a complete reversal. But this isn't just about physical survival, It's about deep, profound humiliation. Gunga Das torments Jukes psychologically, not just to control him, but to absolutely shatter his pride, breaking down his identity piece by agonizing piece until the colonial officer is just gone. And all of this just builds and builds until you get to utter desperation. Jukes has been stripped of every single title and privilege he ever had. He's no longer an engineer or an Englishman in charge. He is a trapped animal, driven by one single instinct: survive, no matter what it takes.
So the transformation is complete. The confident, rational, proud man we met at the beginning, he's gone. In his place is this terrified, desperate, helpless person who now understands the terrifying fragility of his entire world.
Final section, the question that remains. Now, Jukes does eventually get out, miraculously, but he does not go back to being the same man. That experience in the pit, it leaves a permanent psychological scar.
And this is really Kipling's big point, right? That this brutal world, the pit, it's not some far-off alien place. No, it's the chaos that's always lurking just beneath the thin, fragile surface of what we all call civilization. That's what gives this story its lasting power. The pit is really a metaphor for the darker parts of the human psyche, all the hidden fears, the cruelty, the raw survival instincts that our society tries so hard to paper over and pretend aren't there.
Which leaves all of us with one final, pretty unsettling question to chew on. After seeing just how fast Morrowbie Jukes' world could fall apart, we have to ask ourselves, just how thin is that layer of civilization, and how different is our orderly world from the brutal one hidden just beneath?